Hey, Scott, welcome from Appalachian State as well. So I'll give it about one more minute until we get going. Um, so just kind of, again, I'll say welcome. Thank you all for coming today. It's really great to see everybody. If you're just joining, go ahead and throw your school in the chat. It's just nice to kind of keep track of who's here and so you all can see where everybody else is coming from. The purpose of today's webinar is really to introduce you to MECC, the Microsoft Excel Collegiate Challenge, if you haven't seen anything about it before. And then we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about how to engage students, really how to get your classroom involved a little bit more that way. And then I'll talk a little bit about the finals as well. But throughout all of this, if you have questions at any time, please just jump in and ask. I'm going to be sharing my screen, but through kind of OBS virtual camera. So if somebody else talks, you'll come up onto the screen too, and we'll have a conversation. I want it to be more conversational rather than just me talking as a lecture. So I guess with that in mind, just throw yourself on mute if you're not asking a question, just so we don't have too much screen bouncing back and forth. And I will switch over and we can start the presentation. All right, and I realize I gotta get this out of the way. All right, everybody see me okay on there?
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, so let's get going. So I just want to start with why are we here fundamentally? This is a quote from our former provost that, across all disciplines, Excel is one of the most valuable skill sets for students to acquire and one of the most important tools used in business. I think we all realize the importance of this, and that's why the MECC exists, is to train students, give them the skills they need to succeed in their careers. We do that through both training, but also competition. And so we'll talk about both sides of that today. But really the mission here, and I think why you're all here, is because you want to help your students kind of get that training that they need to get ready for their careers. All right, so what is the MECC? Well, it's a free extracurricular program. This is something I started kind of as a partnership between the University of Arizona and the Financial Modeling World Cup, which is kind of the organization that organizes the pro Excel tournaments, both for financial modeling and Excel generally, kind of the gamified esports. And we've been working together for the last 3 years, again, to build those skills that we see are critical for students. And beyond Excel, it is about also problem-solving skills. And fundamentally, I'd almost say data literacy, becoming familiar with working with numbers in a grid, and eventually building the foundations for bigger and better things. With as important as data is in today's world, I think that's critical. So the way we do that is through gamified Excel models, and those really go in two categories. One are challenges that are basically accompanied with walkthrough videos that traditionally I've been doing most of, but we've started to have more faculty coming on and providing those training videos of how to do this, and that's great. And then we also have the competitions that really highlight and test students' skills. And I'll give you examples of both of those in just a second. Kind of where we're at right now is we're approaching 6,000 people in the program, most of them students from 700 schools around the world, over 100 countries. So we've got quite a bit of spread. And we're looking at you to help get your students more engaged so we can increase those numbers and really increase the benefits that students are getting from the program. All right, so as far as the first way we do this is through the training challenges. So these are online via the XPrep portal. If you haven't signed up for the MECC yet, that's kind of your first step. And when you click the sign up, you'll see that there's a drop down for college students, for high school students, for faculty and staff, which most of you probably fall under, or other. So really, we want to be open and accessible to anybody. So just put yourself in there as a student or faculty, or as a faculty or staff. And you can come in and access the materials via the XPrep portal. That's where you can get all the models. It's where the students also turn them back in so they can get credit. Now, as far as the training challenges go, there's a wide variety, but kind of what we've focused on this year is I put together 6 personal finance models. These are intended to be accessible to anyone, regardless of their finance background. So, whether you're in the business school or not shouldn't matter. And they're basic things like, calculating your take-home pay or tracking your savings account balances as well. Hey, Thomas, do you mind throwing yourself onto mute just so I'm the one that shows up on the screen, hopefully for everybody? And then another set is keyboarding exercises. So here's where you can learn shortcuts, practice and build proficiency. Basically, they are timed exercises where you can go through and it basically gives you hints as to what shortcuts to use, really teaching students to learn how to use Excel efficiently, which is a large part of what we're trying to do with the MECC is, these are things that might be hard to fit into a class and might not go along with an assignment, but they are really important for students to know those efficiency shortcuts, and also the modern functions in Excel, which I think are critical and are really powerful of what Excel can do over the last few years. So making students aware of that. That way, when they see a place where it can get used, hopefully they use it in their classes or their careers in the future. And then we also have a library of a lot of past challenges up there. So everything we've done the last few seasons is accessible, and students and you can check that out. So here's one example. What I want to highlight here is that most of these models are built to have dynamic inputs, and those inputs are going to change each time the model gets saved or where you hit that reset parameters button. The other big thing I want to feature is that the answers are in there for the students. So they can see when they have their answer correct, again, based on those input parameters that change, and it's going to highlight that green for them. That kind of instant feedback seems to help students work through it, but also isolate the problems they're having and kind of know where to focus and kind of go back to the video, see how that was done, and get it corrected in their model. Another thing I want to show is the competition, and I'll talk more about the finals kind of towards the end of the webinar. But here's just an example. Here we think of any kind of game that's easily relatable for anyone. So rock, paper, scissors, most people have heard of that. In this example, you can see we have a set of data where you have, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4 for players A and B, and they have all different, the symbols of the rock, paper, or scissors, and you can basically calculate who won the first game, who won the second, maybe who won best 2 out of 3. So those are the type of kind of logical exercises you have to do in these competitions. So it's partly logical exercises, how well can you use the formulas, but also a lot of data wrangling, because you can do a lot of things to make those symbols harder to work with, and you can put them all in one cell and delimit them with semicolons, or just put them all together in a continuous string and have the students have to separate that out. So there's definitely an element of data wrangling, but also logic and problem solving that comes with most of these cases. I'll pause real quick just in case anybody wants to throw out a question at all. I know I'm going quick through this, but and we'll have this all recorded so you guys can review it again later. All right, that's my trick in class too, just to make sure I have a chance to drink some water. But all right, but like I said, jump in, speak up if you have any questions. All right, so as far as the competition goes, I just want you to know about kind of the schedule for this fall. The new semester kind of officially starts for us in September. We kind of block everything into 4-month blocks throughout the year. So September, we're going to have an esports battle. So the students are going to be able to complete this battle before we do a live broadcast on YouTube. And in that live broadcast, we're actually going to feature 4 professors. Sanjay, if you wouldn't mind muting just so everybody else can make sure they see me on the screen, that'd be great. And so there's the 30-minute case, like I said, featuring the 4 professors. And 1 second. All right. And so that'll be September 19th. So again, the idea is that you try the case beforehand. You can do it with your students. And then right after you're done, you can then watch the professors do it with live commentators talking about it. And then we'll announce scores of the best, both pros and students at the end of that broadcast. We then have the online MECC qualification rounds. They happen the last weekend of September. So you see kind of September 28th and 29th, students have a 2-hour block whenever they want over that weekend. And then 2 weeks later on that Sunday, the 13th, we'll have a 2-hour predefined block. So 11 to 1 Eastern time, where everybody in the world does that round at the same time. And we'll take the accumulation of those 2 rounds to determine who gets scholarships to come to the finals and who's invited to the finals as well. Those finals will take place in Las Vegas, December 2nd through 4th, and I'll talk more about that and the whole experience in just a few minutes. And then the training challenges, they're available continuously throughout the year. All right, so why should your students get involved? I mean, hopefully you're somewhat convinced that this is good for students to learn these kind of skills. And really the big things are gain confidence and develop the Excel skills, right? That's the number one thing. To increase the kind of motivation to do that and the follow through, we actually have LinkedIn badges. So if a student does 6 tasks or challenges within the 4-month period, so again, we're just ending at the end of August, coming up here for the summer period, we'll start the fall on September 1st. And any 6 challenges they do. They could be the competitions, they can be training challenges. We don't care. We just want the students engaged, and that'll get them a LinkedIn badge that they can post along with this idea of a certificate of completion. For those that are really engaged and want to compete, there's a chance for the prestige and recognition that comes with that. Being a finalist or being one of the top performers at your school or in your region, I think is something that students can really highlight. And then it allows great things to talk about in interviews. And that kind of goes to the next point of the career opportunities. And a little to our funding structure as well, is that we're funded by sponsors who ultimately want to hire your students. These students are self-selecting into bettering themselves, and a lot of them are, showing off as very good problem solvers and having advanced Excel skills. So these are very desirable traits to employers, and they ultimately want access to them and to hire them. So that's another kind of big piece, is we're trying to make those connections between you and the employers and the students and the employers as well. And then for students that ask, I'd say the commitment is 1 to 2 hours a month. I mean, you could go much deeper than that and spend 40 hours a week on this if you really wanted to. But really, if you just want to do a few challenges a month, watching the videos are typically 20 to 30 minutes, completing the challenge another 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So most students can do this in a reasonable amount of time, which will actually come into how to incorporate this in your classes in the next slide after this one. All right, so how we engage all of you are as college ambassadors. So that's what we'd ideally like you all to be, kind of at your schools. It's our representative there on campus. And what it takes to be a college ambassador is really 2 things. One, we need your email address, right? Because we're going to send you an email update about once a month, kind of let you know what's happening. You can also be signed up separately for the MECC, so you get the emails that all the students get. You're welcome to do both of those. And so the email is one thing. The other thing that happens is we actually give you access to a shared online folder. It's a box folder, but essentially what we put there are lots of marketing resources, things like emails that you could send to your students, syllabus language, flyers or digital posters that you can have put around campus or outside your department, kind of anything that we could provide to make your job easier in helping us spread the word about the MECC. We've asked a lot of people kind of for their feedback, and we've added a lot of content over the years for this. But if there's something that you would really like that would help you get the word out better, please let us know and we'll get that made for you. The other really important thing that comes with the shared folder are the student completion reports. So we want you to be able to see how the students at your school are doing. One, identify the best performers, encourage them, potentially form a team and bring students to the finals in Las Vegas, but also so you can incorporate it into your class. Because we're going to tell you essentially for every student, what have they completed, what was their score, when they turned it in, all the information that you need to actually put this into your grade book. That way you could award either extra credit, you could give recognition, or you can actually make it an assignment in your course. All right, so diving more into that, how do you increase student engagement? As a little bit of background, I started the financial modeling club here at U of A about 4 years ago, kind of the year before I started the MECC. And now it runs itself. I have a large group of students that kind of run our financial modeling club. They're recruiting more and more young students into that and the MECC. And the critical mass seems to have formed, but it took a while to get there. So that's my first thing is, building student engagement kind of organically just does take time, but then it starts going on its own. Now, how do you kind of in the near term encourage students to participate? The biggest thing is making it an assignment in class or extra credit. I have tried both. When I, as the financial modeling professor and the person that founded the MECC, I still get about 25% to maybe a third of my students to do it as extra credit. So it's somewhat effective, but not amazing. This year, I'm actually going to make it an assignment for all my classes. I have a couple different ways I'm doing those assignments. We have a kind of intro Excel course, and there I'm just requiring students to do 2 keyboarding exercises. I think it's really important you develop those skills, and it's going to pay big dividends to the students and the time they save. So I require everyone to do those. So that's something you could do in your class. For my higher level students, I'm going to require them to get the certificate of completion. So at least 6 challenges throughout the semester. And again, they get a LinkedIn badge when they do that. So there's kind of some extra incentives there. And you can also, if you want to, encourage them to participate in the competitions by requiring one of those. And again, you're going to have all the data you need to be able to see that from those reports we're going to be giving out. And we're just going to automatically be updating those in those folders each week once the fall kicks off. Another big thing you can do is work with your student leaders, right? With the clubs and the leaders, and it doesn't have to be a financial modeling club. One thing that I've realized over the last year or two is that lots of the other clubs want to incorporate Excel into their meetings. Kind of most business school students at least realize that Excel is an important skill, but don't necessarily know where to start and get it. And so what we're doing for this fall, and this should be released in the next few weeks, is I'm going to build a specific training challenge with the idea that students can lead the training in a club meeting. So if you want to go to a beta alpha psi meeting or, a, marketing club meeting, you're able to go there and, ideally, I don't mean you personally, I mean a student that has watched the video that I put together and can then show other students how to get through these Excel exercises. They're meant to be quick and relatively easy for people that are advanced, but also to really show big, valuable skills and ways you can gain and save time that are relatively simple and straightforward. Like I won't put an X lookup in there because an X lookup is relatively advanced. So we're going to be going even simpler than that and showing just ways people can get more productive in Excel. So that'd be a great thing that you can kind of encourage your student leaders to share among clubs this fall. Another thing that I want to highlight, and actually I'll pause for a second if anybody has any questions again. I thought I heard somebody maybe jump in. All right, I'll keep going. So another piece are direct student, you can direct your students to training tutorials. So I'm highlighting this here on the screen that we have a new section that Lauma, our marketing head, actually built out where you can find every challenge that we have on XPrep up there. It basically tells a little bit about what the challenge is, and then also provides the videos so you can see what happened, kind of the training videos for training cases. But for competition cases, a number of people, pros included, have posted solution videos of how they approach the problem. And whenever we have multiple of those, we try to put multiple videos in there. And so it really is a wonderful resource if you're looking at a case that you haven't done before that you can go through and really step by step see how to, at least one way to approach the problem. I know Chris from Appalachian State put together a series of 8 videos detailing our horse challenge from a few years ago. Horse, kind of like the basketball shooting game. And so that's all on there and accessible to the students to find. And then the last thing I want to highlight is you could also host a 2025 regional competition. So right now we have, I think, 3 or 4 schools kind of engaged in this right now. We're going to have regional competitions all around the world on April 5th next year. The idea is that you're going to host a local competition. It could just be for your students, or it can be your students in neighboring schools that you invite to come as well. We will help get Excel speakers there for you. We have a pretty extensive network of that. We'll do our best to try to connect you with some people that can come in and talk and really provide the infrastructure for how you set up and host one of your own kind of Excel events. And if you're interested, that's something you can just reach out to me, or also Thomas, who's on the call, who's our strategic partnerships manager. He can also help you out with that. But that's a way to kind of further the engagement at your school if that's something that you're interested in. All right, we're about 20 minutes in. I was going to shift to talking about the finals just a little bit more so everybody's familiar with that. But again, jump in with questions. So the finals, the big thing I want to emphasize about the finals is the top line, the training camp. So the first half, and a little bit more than the first half of every day in the finals, is actually Excel training. There are going to be Excel MVPs and professionals from around the world coming in to share their tips and tricks and really make students aware of what's possible in Excel. This is where I think the most benefit for students is that you can get them and really expose them and get them excited and really take that back to campus then and excite lots of the other students. We kind of trialed it here at Arizona. I took a couple of my students last fall and they loved it, and they've got lots of students excited. I'm going to drive a van of 10 students up to Las Vegas when the finals come in December. The other thing to note is, in the evening, we have the competitions. So the first night, there's going to be a last chance qualification round, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the semifinals on Tuesday, and then the finals. Yeah, please, question.
Oh,
Is there a question there? On the main. 1 second, I'm just going to mute that. Yeah, thanks for muting, guys. But there we go. All right. So moving on. The cost. So this is the one part of the MEC that does have a cost associated with it, because we gotta, people have to travel there, and there are costs to having the conference in Las Vegas and, securing the esports arena where we do the competition and that kind of thing. So there's conference registration of $550 per student or faculty member coming. That'll increase to $600 on September 1st. That's basically covering the costs of the event itself. We'll have a few things that go with that, but it does include a good amount of food. I think we've worked out for breakfast, some snacks, and then also a buffet lunch at one of the nearby hotels. In the evening, we'll be at the esports arena, which actually has a food and bar, a couple food and bar places inside of it. So food will be very accessible, and there will be food very short walks away. So we're kind of leaving everybody on their own for dinner, but we'll provide some big lunches, kind of, I think around 1 or 2 o'clock. So they'll be kind of late lunches. So I think that'll help most people get through the day. On the hotel side, we have a room block at the Luxor. It's about $400 for all 4 nights. So about $100 per night is the rate that's worked out. And you can get, 1, 2, 3, or 4 students in there. So, at U of A, we're doing double occupancy. So I've got 5 hotel rooms booked for my 10 students and 1 for myself as well. And then obviously you have to get there. So we're taking a van, but obviously a lot of you would have to fly to get there as well. As far as the training camp, it's called the Active Cell. And here you can just kind of see just a small selection of who's coming. It's financial modeling in Excel. There is a heavy financial modeling component, probably about half, just because that's where the FMWC originated. But you'll see also lots of other stuff kind of separate, new Excel functions, dynamic arrays, automation tools, Power Query, and from all sorts of people, from world champions, Andrew Nyai is on there, MVPs, and also product managers. Joe McDade on the screen there is one of the main guys designing how Excel evolves. All right, so how do you get there? The first thing I want to emphasize is anybody that comes to the finals can be part of the official semifinal event. There's a last chance qualification round on Monday that I'll detail in a second. But essentially what we're going to do is host 64 individuals and 16 teams. Those 64 individuals so far, we've already had 25 pre-qualify from tournaments earlier in the year. We'll have a few more from the next couple, from the September battle we have coming up, and also the online rounds we have in September, October. We have some wild cards available. We're trying to, if you've seen we're doing a GoFundMe campaign to kind of try to bring in more students from developing countries, as well as more women to the finals. And so we'll have some wild card slots for those scholarship winners. And then, like I said, the last chance qualifiers. On the teams, we're going to have 16 teams. Again, the people pre-qualifying from those battles ahead of time. We also have a seasonal school ranking. Now, the way the school rankings work is that we take the number of challenges that have been finished by students at your school, and we divide that by the square root of the number of students who have done anything. So basically, we're trying to get an idea of roughly the average amount of engagement per student you have, while also giving benefit to having more students involved. So we're really just trying to encourage more activity from your school, and the top 5 schools in that category will also pre-qualify a team into the finals as well. So that's how we're going to get there. Now that last chance qualification, what happens here, it's a 30-minute Excel esports battle that'll happen Monday evening. Everyone that's there that can participate. So I intend to participate as a pro. I encourage other faculty to also participate. You might make the 64-person field for the pro event as well. Everyone competes individually, and we're going to take the top 15 individual students into the semifinals the next day. And then your top 3 students from your school basically form your team score. And we'll use those team scores to figure out which teams qualify for the next day as well. So that's the basic idea of the last chance qualification. As far as the finals competition, on Tuesday night, we have the semifinals, 64 individuals, 16 teams. That gets narrowed down to 12 individuals. That's as many fit on the stage, and 4 teams. So 4 teams of 3 will also fit up on the big stage there. It'll all be live broadcast on YouTube, and then we also post-produce it into a special for ESPNU that'll air a few weeks later in December. So that's another exciting piece for us. All right, so at this point, get involved, right? Email us, info@mecc.college. You can always reach out to me directly, dcbrown@arizona.edu. We've got our websites. We'd love to see you in Vegas with a group of students. like I say, I think about sending a group rather than a team because, I'm going to bring 10 students to the finals. I'll bring my top performers, but I also want to bring some of the younger students, some freshmen and sophomores. That way they experience it and really help kind of spread the Excel vibes around campus when they get back. So that's the end of my kind of pre-prepared remarks. Questions, comments, thoughts? I'm happy to answer anything else that you guys have while we have a little bit more time.
David, how does the team competition work? That is the final in the finals itself when those folks make it there.
Yeah, great question. So the team finals questions are a little bit different in how they're engineered versus the individual questions. The basic format's the same in that you have a number of levels to complete. The difference really is we kind of set it up into like 3 groups of questions. That way it naturally splits for 3 people to work on it together. As the students work on it, there's no restriction on how they approach it. So, you could have one person do one part of each of those groupings. Probably doesn't make the most sense, but more strategically, you say, oh, well, this is more of a visual level, and person A is more inclined to that, whereas person B's super great at lookups, and the middle level is kind of like that. And so we kind of try to get a variety of skills across different groupings, all under the same theme, though, is basically how we design those. All right. Other questions, thoughts?
I have a question for clarity. So on that first slide that you showed, it had the dates, and one was September 28th for the online qualification rounds. So can you explain to me so I'm new to this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about embedding it into a course that I want to be teaching this fall.
Great.
Students don't come back until the 22nd of August. So does that mean that we are not eligible for this year in terms of competition because we wouldn't be able to meet that? Or just talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, everyone is eligible. I guess my question, so do you come back August 22nd or September 22nd?
August 22nd.
Okay, so then you have almost a full month. I think we start the 26th, so we're right there with you as far as our schedule. And anybody that competes can participate. So, I mean, it'll be a little tough if you miss the qualification rounds because you're not going to directly qualify in. But even if you miss that, you can still send a group of students to the finals and qualify in that last chance qualification. I think just being there, you get a chance to compete. And again, I think the biggest thing with being at the finals is getting your students the experience of all that Excel learning and the networking that comes with it. The other thing that I'll actually add, though, is that when we do competitions, we actually put post-competition versions of the cases up. So, on September 19th, we're going to do this battle. And there's literally a 45-minute window where if you don't complete the challenge in that window, you cannot access it. Because again, we want to make sure nobody's cheating and like there's not, basically it's a fair playing field. But as soon as it's over, an hour or 2 later, we'll post a second version of the case that's not going to get scored for competition, but anybody can then do and submit. That way they can, get credit towards the certificate of completion or part of a class or anything like that. So that would be one way you could kind of get all your students engaged, no matter when in the semester you wanted them to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. Other questions?
I have a question for you.
Yeah, please, Tom.
So, two-part question. Is XPrep the best place to start if I want to get a feel for the type of problems and whether I can adapt them or use them in my class? And second part of that is there a cost associated with XPrep?
So for MECC, no, we cover the cost of XPrep for all the students in the MECC portal. However, if you want to use XPrep in your classes like I do, there is a cost for that students, my students basically pay $35 a year to be able to use XPrep in my class. And I have a whole different set of assignments I use there versus what's in the MECC. And if you want to email me, I'm happy to share materials on that. Just let me know, but we'll kind of leave that separate. So no cost for that. And I think the best way to kind of see what's available, in the past, it was actually just going to XPrep and clicking on kind of what's up there and downloading it and seeing. But now we have that tutorials section of the website, which gives descriptions of what each challenge is. So you could get a kind of a high level overview by looking at the tutorials. and see what you might want students to do. And then you can always dive in a little bit more and get the file through the XPrep portal.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Max, were you jumping in for the question? Great.
Yeah, David, thanks for doing all that. I know a lot of work, it's a lot of work. So having it in Vegas, it's sometimes it's just a little bit of the looks of it, sending students to Arizona versus sending students to Vegas for a few days. How do you maybe, I don't know, address it, or maybe how do you talk about it that takes that away? Like, and this is
Yeah.
more for internal within my college.
Yeah. I definitely had that thought as well. What I actually think is interesting about it, and this is from going to Vegas last year with the students, is I find Vegas is it's much less likely students get in trouble if they're under 21 in Vegas. Vegas is very tight about letting people into places that have alcohol or getting, if you step onto the gambling floor, they're going to be carding those students. Like we were walking through the hotel floor and my students got approached about like, we need to see your ID. So I think from that perspective, I'm not worried about taking underage students because Vegas is just not going to let them get in trouble. It's too high risk for Vegas. Whereas college campuses, I mean, kind of college towns are notorious for kids getting into trouble if they want to. As far as the students over 21, I mean, I'm going to be talking to my students that they have to adhere to the University of Arizona Code of Conduct. Basically don't screw this up for future people and you're going to get in big trouble if you do. So I think the third thing I think is that the students that we're taking are not necessarily the type that go get in trouble as much, but that's not always true and not super generalizable. I hope that helps a little bit.
It does, and I'm not worried, like you said, like especially the third point, like the students. I mean, I've never really had like students get in trouble like to that degree. It's more with other stakeholders within the college who are not fully familiar with it. Is for them, it's thinking, oh, there goes Max taking students to Vegas, right? Versus taking
Right.
them to University of Arizona.
Yeah, I guess the last point I would then make to somebody that says that is the reason we're going to Vegas is so we compare with the pros and give the students access to this amazing training opportunity. The other, like, without being in this community, you might not have seen it, but the pros in this tournament, they are all so eager to connect with students and really help and mentor this next generation coming through. That contact that you get is really amazing, and it's very heartwarming for me to see all these other professionals getting involved with the students as well. So that's a piece that it's invaluable. And so, I understand the Vegas tension, but I think that more than makes up for it.
Thanks. That's actually well phrased and helpful.
Excellent. All right. Other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, hi David. It's Fred. I'm thinking of making the keyboard challenge mandatory for my student and classes. Will that be free for them or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, completely free, and you will get access to like how they do via the XPrep portal. Or
Okay,
sorry,
cool.
not via the portal. Sorry, the reports that we give you in the online folder. That's how
Okay.
you'll get the data on that.
So I see the fastest of my student on the keyboard challenge, and I will allow them to do it more than once, like to give your best time until that time, and then I see how they did.
Yeah,
Or,
and I have to be a
okay.
little careful on this because what we report on is that they completed the challenges.
Okay.
So for every challenge except the keyboarding ones, you get the full score. And did they what percentage of the questions did they get right?
Okay, I
With the
get it.
keyboarding, it's just did you get it done or not is how we report. But if you want to encourage students to kind of let you know their times, they could always take a screenshot of their results page. And that would be a good way to get that data. We can get that data through XPrep. It's just much more labor intensive to get that data out than the regular reports I give you, which are all automated.
And will you know that a student has just take the file and submit it without having done the challenge?
Yes, we do know that.
Okay.
I'm gonna double check on that. But I know we certainly have a way to do that.
You're a teacher, so you know what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank you, Frederick. All right. Anything else on anybody's minds?
David,
Yes, Ronald.
I have a question about the mix of finance and Excel that you have in your program. So how do you manage that
So say the first part again. About the
between finance and Excel? So the idea of this is more concentrated on Excel or more concentrated on finance, or the idea is to do it more balanced.
right. So for the MECC, it's about Excel. We occasionally get some finance involved, but I intentionally want to make it not finance heavy.
Okay.
As an example, you might have to have students do a case where they're calculating costs and revenue and getting profit. And we'll even spell out that profit equals cost or revenue minus costs. And that's about as, fancy as we're going to get in quote unquote finance. And the reason is to make it accessible to everyone. So it's much more gamified. I guess the other exception is I did put together those personal finance trainings. As a finance professor, I firmly believe those are important skills for people to learn regardless of what their major is. But those again are optional and not part of the competition. So we're always going to try to keep the competition very finance light. That said, if you're teaching finance stuff and financial modeling, that's where I've put together a lot of those course materials. And if you're interested in seeing it, just shoot me an email and we can chat sometime.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Just a few things I saw in the chat. Peter's one of our former finalists, and he was saying it's nice to see pros and all the different ways they approach problems. You can learn a ton that way. So there's a lot of learning as a student, and I'll actually say as a professor, I have learned so much of my Excel skills today based on watching videos of other people doing Excel esports challenges in the past. I actually remember when I found out about the filter function. If you guys haven't seen the filter functions, it's basically a way to do drop-down filtering, but do it embedded in a function, which makes it much more powerful for dynamic reporting. And it's a game changer. So there are so many new formulas and functions that I've learned as a result of engaging in this world. And both for your own benefit, but also for the student benefit. I think that's huge. All right. And yeah, Youssef was saying that they'd like to host a local competition. That's fabulous. So yeah, reach out to Thomas. So Thomas is on this call. Thomas, if you don't mind just dropping your email in the chat. Thomas is a great resource to connect and also answer any more questions you have on this. And you can also reach out to me. All right, I think that's most questions. I'm going to hang around for a few more minutes if anybody has other questions they want to ask. But thank you very much for your time, for coming today, and for all your support of the program. Please let us know if we can provide any and all resources to you. Email us so we can get you set up as a college ambassador. That way you can get those email updates and also get that shared folder so you can know how your students are doing. So thank you again. Look forward to seeing you hopefully here in Vegas or one of these future events. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
So David, quick question before you log off.
Yeah.
So as I'm signing up, and you said we could choose any of the sign up options as either a student or a faculty member or whatever, is there an advantage to signing up as one or the other? Will I lose? I guess not an advantage. Will I lose anything, any visibility by signing up as one type of user versus signing up as another type of user?
Nope. If you sign up as faculty staff, you're going to get the same things that the students are going to get.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. You're set there. All right. Max, I see you're still on the call. Do you think are the students rearing to come back to the finals again?
Well, those folks were seniors.
Okay.
Actually, no, there were a couple. Never mind, they're also here. Yeah. So, maybe the challenge is we're just doing a lot of other things. We're doing a lot of industry engagement, and so like
Yeah.
the 2 weeks prior to that, I'll be going somewhere else. So, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah. No, I think. I mean, last year we had about half the teams came without faculty. So I think students are, I mean, definitely capable of doing so. Yeah, your team actually did. It was one of those
Yeah.
teams.
Oh, no,
last
no,
year.
and it's not me
Yeah.
even. It's more so the students themselves will be like, again, will be involved and will be doing
Right.
other things. But
Yeah, yeah. No, like we keep students pretty busy, don't we? Generally, as you know, in undergraduate business education, they stay busy here too.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Great. Anybody else have anything? All right. Oh, Travis. Yeah.
Yeah, David. I'm just kind of dipping my toes in this, trying to figure out and kind of learn a little bit about the whole program you have here. I teach undergrad and grad school, and I've had a lot of my students say, "Hey, you need to check out the Collegiate Challenge. Are you interested in it?" And I'm like, I hadn't checked it out yet at all, so I'm brand new. But I'm very interested in kind of finding out first off about your ambassador program, and I doing a lot of the new classes right now, so I don't know how quickly I'll get into it, but even if I don't get into it right away, I want to go ahead and get my foot in the door as far as finding out more info. So I guess I'll email you if you can give me some more information as far as let me go try out some of the different stuff that you have. I've been debating on XPrep, and I hear you talking about XPrep, and I have talked to the guys quite a bit, and I haven't yet incorporated that into my classes, but I'm a little bit curious about that. You said you are using it. I didn't know if XPrep actually could get into as many details and grade as much to the level that I have my graders grade right now. It seems like there's still some human interaction that you can only get so advanced doing it via XPrep. So I wanted to pick your brain on that as well.
Yeah. Send me an email and let's actually set up a time to chat and I can show you what I'm doing a little bit more in the classes.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm very happy to kind of share the materials that I've put together and show you what I'm doing there. I definitely agree there are limitations to what XPrep can do, but I feel like the way I've kind of engineered the approach over time, I'm very happy with how it's working now. The biggest thing I'll say about it is by automating all your assignments, you can give them a lot more, which I basically have gotten rid of tests because I have the students just do enough assignments throughout the semester and they're engaged in Excel a lot. And that's what I think is important to learn it, right? You have to do it a bunch. And this is a way of holding them accountable, which is harder to do at scale otherwise.
And I'm giving them a lot, but I have a lot of graders that I'm paying to actually do the hands-on work. So I still am getting the bulk, but at some point in time, I'm waiting for the department chairs and stuff going, "Hey, hold on, we need to do this more cheaply." So anyway, but I'll send you an email on that and try to get some more info. I appreciate that.
Sounds great. Look forward to it, Travis.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.